In top 8 of the Pokemon World Championships 2024, Ian Robb decided to celebrate his 2-0 win against an Iron Thorns archetype with a pretty inappropriate gesture, and actually ended up receiving a match loss, paving the way for Fernando Cifuentes to progress through the tournament and eventually become our 2024 World Champion. With quite the controversial end to Ian's run, not actually being decided by the Pokemon cards, many players asked themselves what could have happened if Ian was still in the tournament and progressed into top 4. Who would come out on top between Ian's Regidrago V-Star archetype and Jesse Parker's undefeated Miraidon deck? And would either of these players stand a chance up against Sinosuke's Turbo Roaring Moon deck in the final? For today's video, we're going to be running a quick simulation to try and answer that exact question. Obviously, I'm nowhere near as skilled as the pilots themselves with these archetypes. And of course, anything can happen in Pokemon, so take everything with a pinch of salt, but today should be a fun video trying to uncover what could have happened at the World Championships. So just a very quick rundown before we get into the games. Here we have Ian Robb's 60 in front of you guys, where there is the Radiant Charizard as a single prize attacking option, which I do think is going to be important. And then we have Jesse's Miraidon list. It has double Forest of Stone, double Squawkabilly, so it has lots of ways to just get into games. There's the 3 copies of Boss's Orders, the Prime Catcher, and the Iron Bundle, which is going to be crucial as well. I think on paper, Regidrago is the unfavoured deck going into this top 4 game, but the key players for a Regidrago is going to be trying to weave in the Radiant Charizard. Even after the first 2 prize KO, you can do this for just 3 energy attachments. Pretty reasonable to get going with those energy switches, to force the opponent to have multiple uses of Gust, and of course, because there's Iron Bundle in the list, and at this stage in the tournament, players know what other people have in the 60s, you probably want to put down Charizard as well as something like Hawlucha on the bench as well, so you can play around Iron Bundle. And of course, because Jesse isn't playing any high damage output Pokemon like Raichu V, for example, the Regidragos themselves, they can tank. You don't have to use the Goodra, you just know you're going to tank anyway, so you can try and weave in a Dragapult EX play, so possibly you can try and set up multiple Pokemon to have a 4 prize swing as long as your V-Star's able to tank. The opening turns are definitely going to be shaky for Regidrago, but these are going to be the key players if you're going to stay in the game against the Miraidons. On the flip side then, for Jesse, of course, you just want to get the ball rolling with your generators as you would, get that early aggressive Photon Blaster or attack with Raikou V if the opponent's gone wide enough to take the initial 2 prize KO. And as we know, Regidrago can't really help but put many other multi-prizes into play, so trying to use constant Prime Catcher and Boss's Orders to keep up on those 2 prize knockouts will be the way that you race effectively. Cards like Mew EX and Pheasantipede EX are going to be perfect ways that you can give yourself that little bit of extra dig to find these pieces throughout the game. And as we know, because Sinosuke was on the other side of the bracket, he's completely unaffected by the top 4, he's always making it to the finals, and this is the Turbo Moon list he chose to run. Has the double Squawkabilly as well as the Pokestops and Trekking Shoes, so it has a lot of cycle towards those Sardas and Dark Patches to get that initial 2 prize KO in both situations against Miraidon or Regidrago. Thanks to the 4 copies of Pokemon Catcher in the list as well, it doesn't really matter if the opponent gets those single prizes and pushes them into the active position. You do have to flip the heads, of course, but you still have means of getting that early 2 prize KO. So getting into the first game of our best of 3, you're going to see myself on the Miraidon side here, and it's obviously up against Regidrago V-Star. My opener's pretty solid. Got a couple Nest Balls, got Forest and Townstone already, and the Regidrago has gone first. And I think a priority typically for the Drago is to get multiple single prize Pokemon out if they can, but it looks like their board is full with other stuff, so maybe just retreat into Radzard here. Or if they can get an attachment into Radzard, possibly. No attachments for the turn at all, so they just keep the Mew in the active. So they're basically saying, take the first 2 prizes and try and get Radzard as like a response play, possibly. Maybe it just indicates that their hand is kind of weak as well, to be honest with you. We can spend these Nest Balls, get Miraidon out. Miraidon gets Raikou plus second Miraidon, and then we can also get Squawkabilly developed. Do we want to commit to an energy attachment? Probably onto this Raikou. We can then Townstore for Rescue Board and get that onto the bundle. And the question is, do you want to just Arven now for the guaranteed generator? And I think with so few supporters, you probably should just do this and thin a Forest as we do so. Then we can play a generator. It hits just 1 lightning, but that's enough for the Raikou. And then we can Squawk and seize the extra tool away quite happily. What else is going on with the hand? Not much, but then we have the debate of, do we want to spend this Star Alchemy after a Fleet-Footed? And we probably do want to, right? Because we have to respect that, like, if we're going to lose this game, it's probably because there has to be a Radzard coming back at us. So we need to prepare ourselves for this Radzard coming in. And that means we need to have a next attacker lined up, as well as having probably gusting plays. And because we already have Bull Search developed, And I'm also going to play around at INO by putting the Fez down anyway. I can free up this board space with Bundle if I have to as well, don't forget. So we've had a really good turn, to be honest with you. Getting that Raikou KO and setting up our hand quite nicely for the following turn as well, with that Miraidon also getting 2 energies thanks to a second generator. So let's see how the opponent can respond here. They obviously have to go Rad Charizard to get anything done. Looks like their hand was honestly just a little bit weak. They had to Stretcher here for Mew. Oh, they have Prime Catcher. That's fine. Doesn't make a huge difference to us with Raikou already doing a huge amount with their bench being full. Looks like they're doing it just to draw more cards with the Mew here. Fez then draws 3 and it's onto some Ogerpon Teal Dances now. Let's see. They need to get a couple of these energies over to Radzard. We see the energy onto Radzard, then a research. Do we see the V-Star here? If no V-Star, it may be difficult for them to actually get the attack in with Radiant Charizard. Haven't seen an Ultra Ball yet, though, so oh, wow, so they do miss V-Star. And now we really should be in a commanding position. Bundle just guarantees us another 2-prize turn here. And then we have just so many ways to finish off the game from this stage, to be honest. We can thin a Bravery Charm, and it's whether we want to put anything else onto this board, really. We can think about maybe Radiant Greninja coming into play here, just for even more means of drawing out towards the end, because we're just going to be a gust away, right? We're going to spread our threats a little bit onto these Miraidons. Maybe that's questionable, honestly. You could just put 3 onto the bench Miraidon EX. It wouldn't have made a huge difference, to be honest. We can thin Squawkabilly with an Ultra Ball. And then we're just going to Rondo through the Mew a second time to go down to 2. 2 pretty nice prizes. Generator Prime, not bad either. That unlocks all of our Arven to close game now. They obviously can Radzard, but they're quite a few prizes behind now. They're going to have to get a Radzard KO, dodge boss, then tank with a V-Star, take another 2 probably, or set up a Dragapult play. It's still possible for them to win, but they need the INO to be really, really strong, and they obviously have to use INO here. We do see an E-switch onto a V-Star, which eventually comes into play. They're also powering that up in the back. Need to see INO here, and yet they do have it, at least. But we have that Greninja plus Fez already developed. There's energy already in hand for us. These are all decent plays from the opponent, but it seems like it's a turn late, because they had to pass with the Radzard rather than swing with it last turn. Otherwise, they could be, like, the situation would be the same. It's just now I have a turn to, like, a 2-turn clock to win, because I could whiff this turn and still win next turn. Whereas if everything had gone right, we could still win this turn no matter what. But we'd have to hit from these, like, 5 draws from Greninja and Fez, right? So that's the only difference here. And we do hit Arven, which is game. Just going to make sure with the tandem units. Obviously, we weren't thinning the Pokemon before drawing because we had things like a Minion as outs, but now we can prime into one of these bench Pokemon and take a pretty convincing first win. A bit slow from the Drago side. They did develop the Radzard early, but missed on early attachments. But either way, we were able to take the first 2-prize KO and then carry on from that position. So let's get into the second game here against Drago and see if things go differently. They're going to lead out with Ogerpon. We see Ultra Ball getting rid of a couple of dragons. That's always nice. The Goodra and the Kyurem. Kyurem's a weird one because we play the 1 Bravery Charm and 2 Switch Card. It's typically not going to be their best line of play because it can be undone from like a 2-attack win condition if we have those healing cards. We're going to see the Radzard once again proactively found and now attached to, so already an upgrade on game 1. There's a Drago coming into play as well. Not much else, though, so they're going to pass things over. We have Nest Ball for Squawk, and we also have Ultra Ball in the hand. Actually, again, just a really good hand. A couple Ball Search cards is always very, very good for this deck. We're going to go for Miraidon in this case, and then we're going to tandem unit out another Miraidon, as well as Zapdos. And then we're going to get a Fleet-Footed card in. It's just a Lightning, which isn't ideal. Then we're going to go for the Arven. Going to grab Board plus Generator. It could be Switch Cut, honestly. If I want to keep my Forest Seal Stone around for Raikou later, it could be best here that I just go Switch Cart Board into Squawk and guarantee myself a decent motivate. Because they took the sort of like they're trying to be defensive here by attaching to the Zard rather than the Regidrago. They're basically allowing me to take 2, and Generator actually does hit a couple lightning, which is even better here. Now I can really spread my threats. So I think I've been allowed this Squawkabilly turn, because it's still a big combo for them to actually attack me next turn. They need to like move this Ogerpon, get another Ogerpon, get multiple E-switches. It's possible because they have V-Star plus Research possibly, but it's still a big combo because that turn attachment, just that one attachment forces so much more from them next turn. That I think we were sort of given this avenue of Squawk, so using that Radzard so proactively might have been an issue. So we do see energy onto the V-Star. They are going to go into the V-Star. Do see an E-switch, and then we see an Iono, so they are still missing a piece. They need to find Ogerpon Grass E-switch. Well, there's Nestball. There's Teal Dance. Do they have the E-switch to follow up? Another Nestball gets Hawlucha. Is that just playing around Bundle, possibly? Well, it's a big let-off for us once again, as now, thanks to the Squawkabilly, we just have so many attackers lined up, and once again, we're in this great position of, like, now we should be very well prepped to just take multiple prizes back-to-back-to-back with Gust, because we just have so many attackers ready to go already, you know? The Generator does whiff, which means I probably have to spend Forest on Raikou, unless I fleet-footed an energy right now. And we actually do, which is awesome. So I can spend Forest on something else this turn, which is great. Probably just going to be another Generator, honestly. Again, I want to proactively use it, expecting this Pokemon to be knocked out. And we will again just cash in on Generator and get another whiff, which is actually a little bit awkward because we have no more Generators in deck, actually. So I really hope that over the next 4 prizes, I hit my Generator. We whiffed on the first chance, but we're still 1 attachment away from benched Miraidon EX, and then we have to hope that if we get a Gust 2 prize KO next turn, the Generator's in those 2 prizes. They can eventually build up a Drago, and they're going to research. In this case, Drago V-Star's as safe as Radzard, because obviously we have no higher damage output that can actually reach 280 in this deck, because we don't have the Raichu. But they are just going to Apex Dragon, probably going to be Pulse. Yeah, they're going to copy Dragapult EX, put 2 on each Miraidon. That sets up a Dragapult play, but also helps the Radzard get around Bravery Charmed Miraidon as well. And they're just going to put the excess onto the Squawk. Why not? It's the lowest hit point bench Pokemon where it actually matters from that point onwards. We have access to Fez, which is really nice. We can see a couple more cards. I'm also just going to proactively Arven before drawing cards, because we know we want to use Prime Catcher here. The only argument to not use the Arven would be so that if I just drew into boss, which we actually did, I could save Arven for additional outs for Prime Catcher later, if that makes sense. Because if I get hand disrupted, I just have more copies of Arven in the deck. But either way, with the Zapdos actually chipping in, we can still deal 210 onto that Ogerpon. Actually, that was the one we poked with Squawk anyway, so it didn't matter. The reduction of Double Turbo not coming into play here. We do go down to those 2 prizes, and we do hit the Generator from prizes 3 and 4, which is massive. So now I'm holding on to Generator Boss, so they have to hand disrupt us here. Or at least okay, so no hand disruption. So now as long as I am able to hit off the Generator, we should be all good. I still have more draws from Fez as well. So we are going to thin the deck with these Ball Search cards just quickly. I can Ultra Ball for that bundle anyway, so it doesn't make a huge difference. It also lowers my hand size for Mew Draw before a Fez even, which is great. We are going to play the bundle. It looks like, we have to Gust anyway for 2 prizes regardless, so the bundle is just being played to free up the space for the Mew, really. And we're going to proactively play the boss, and because the Generator hit, we can get the KO there. So a pretty easy and routine 2-0 for the Miraidon there. It is so tricky for the Regidrago to actually get over the line, even with their sort of proactive use of Radzard. It can be really tough. I actually did get a 3rd game in just for the sake of completionist, I suppose, just to see if Drago can take games when they are going second. I do feel it's a little easier for Miraidon when you go second as the Dom player, so forcing the Dom to go first can change things up a little bit here. But our hand, once again, is pretty gas, honestly. We have Mew into the Squawk and Miraidon, which is all looking pretty good. We can Mew draw for 1, but we choose not to, and we just go for Squawk instead. Draws a lot of these energy cards, so we're going to get Greninja in the mix to start cycling even more here. And I think that's a good place to end on, to be honest. Oh, we're actually just going to get a draw in with Raikou. I think the idea around this is that my board is full, and I already have 2 Arven in hand, so I'm basically locking myself into a Prime Catcher next turn anyway, so I may as well get the extra card from Fleet-Footed. That's kind of the idea around why I'm retreating a free retreater here just for a +1. Effectively a +2, because I'll get to Fleet-Footed again next turn. We're going to see our opponent does begin to get some Ogerpon down. And going to get a second Teal Dance in. More Nest Ball. Is it going to be the textbook Radzard? Yes, it is. They aren't going to get energy established and just pass things over again. So again, this puts us in a position where, again, we could try and get Squawkabilly down. But depending on how well these generators hit, we could just, like, get racing, honestly. We're going to grab that Forest just for fodder with Ultra Ball here. Just to improve our odds with the generator. And we do hit 2 Lightning, which is pretty solid. Don is ready to rumble now. Looks like because the Prime is actually prized, we probably will be going for the Squawkabilly play once again. It really does heavily punish this Radzard like proactive play. Maybe it shows that you really should just be going Drago on turn 1 instead of the Radzard, because it just lets me do this play again, and now I'm so well prepped for Gust, essentially. Using that Squawkabilly as the MVP. I mean, in this case, it's because the Prime Catcher's prized, but I'm holding on to 2 Boss now, and I have 2 Miraidon already prepped with a decent amount of, like, accelerators ready. Oh, looks like they're trying to power up the Ogerpon for a KO on the Squawk. If they take the first 2 prizes with Ogerpon, that changes the dynamic entirely. Oh, so they missed the switching card on the Hawlucha. Even an E-switch for the other Ogerpon to the active Hawlucha could have been it. But yeah, that's actually one of the only ways they could have punished the use of Squawk there. If this Ogerpon had taken the first 2 prizes, it would have been completely the other way around, where we'd have been really on the back foot. Fortunately, they do whiff that final piece, and we're able to still take that first 2 prize KO. This is going to be a game, though, where we have to get around Radzard probably twice. They're coming in with it likely this turn. Yep, here we go. And then we're going to have to deal with it next turn as well. Because we have Bravery Charm, though, this Miraidon's not getting KO'd in 1 turn. So if I can get it back into the active, that could be really big. I don't really want to leave it on the bench too much because it opens up the easy Dragapult play. But I suppose if they're using Pult, they're not taking out Miraidon at the same time, like my benched one. So I think it should be okay here. I think we are just good to retreat and deal with Fez, honestly. Seems to be what we're going for here. I think attaching to Raikou is also fine, yeah. Get another backup attacker going, just in case. And once again, we're going down to 2 prize cards, asking the questions of the opponents. We pick up Prime from the prizes as well, which is massive. Because that gives us just so many outs to close here now. We do see some V-Stars finally coming into play. But once again, they're probably just going to Radzard here. And then next turn, they'll look to boss like Squawk or Mew and finish off the 4 prizes. So they can win in 2 attacks here. If this Iono sticks, they will take a game. But we Ioned into boss. It's not game yet, but we have a decent amount of draws to get us over the line. And the boss is kind of the hard part, you'd think. There is the Combustion Blast. We can go into the Raikou. And Double Turbo is game. That's enough for us. With the Zapdos coming out from the tandem units, it once again means we're doing 210 damage. So there we go. Just another win for the Don. It looked like the Drago didn't have like the best slices of luck in those games, but I didn't want to have like 10 games of the same matchup. I think we already know that Miraidon's pretty favored. So now we're getting into our, in air quotes, final. So the key players when you come up against Miraidon as a Roaring Moon player really depends on if you're going first or second. If you're going first as Roaring Moon, you probably want to get your Radiant Greninja as well as Roaring Moon established to force them onto a single prize KO or make them not take a prize at all, giving you the incentive to take the first 2 prize KO. Whereas if you've gone second, of course you're going to be cycling to try and find your Sardas and Dark Patches so you can get that early Calamity Storm or Frenzy Gouging in the mix. Do bear in mind that Petulant EX, that Poison Tick, actually makes a big difference in this matchup because it's much easier for Miraidon to hit 220 damage than the actual 230, and it means they could even use some lower energy attack costs to finish off a Roaring Moon if we have used that Frenzy Gouging. So we want to be spamming the Calamity Storm when possible and make it difficult for the opponent to actually reach that 230 threshold. None of that really matters as long as you've taken the first 2 prize KO, you can just outrace them, you never really care about what's coming back your way because you have so many means of rebuilding your Roaring Moon with your Sardas and Patches. On the Miraidon side of things, similar story really. If you've gone first, you want to try and shove a single prize Pokemon if you can. It's really awkward because Zapdos is actually a crucial card to offset your maths, like I said, so you can hit that 230. So you actually kind of would be a little bit upset if the opponent did take that single prize Zapdos KO, but typically they'll still try and go around it. But of course the Roaring Moon oftentimes has to flip coins in order for that to happen. Also bear in mind that the Blood Moon Ursaluna could be a great late game threat that can still reach that 240 without the help of Pokemon Go Zapdos. And Jesse played one copy of the Bravery Charm, which could try and force the Turbo Moon to actually Frenzy Gouging, which could open up all sorts of different attacking avenues, which are much cheaper, like the likes of Raikou, or possibly even Squawkabilly EX as well. If the opponent has had to use Petulant to poison the Roaring Moon, that's going to have just 20 hit points remaining, so you can prod it for 20 and actually set up another Lightning guy on the bench at the same time. Of course, you're still going to choose to go second with Miraidon, and look to try and get that 2 prize KO. So trying to use things like Arven and Squawkabilly in the opening stages to get that early Prime Catcher KO will be the big deal here, but you're still having to cross your fingers for those generators throughout the entire game. And Miraidon has been forced to go first here. I think both decks would choose to go second in the matchup. We know it's a racing matchup. So one of our priorities as Don here is going to be getting at least a single prize Pokemon into the active to try and make life difficult for them to take that first 2 prize KO. That's not what we want to see, so we're going to Ultra Ball just to thin again, just get some fodder before a Generator, then Squawk and Seize. Generator does Whiff, which is a bit awkward. I'm going to attach to Squawk, and just so that I have that retreat option into a single prize to force those Pokemon Catcher heads, really. The Greninja gets me 2 Lightning, which is so annoying, because then obviously hurts our odds. We weren't to know what was on top of the deck, of course. But we are just going to retreat into, looks like the Greninja, so I keep Bundle open for myself, and then we can pass. At least we're holding on to Forest Seal Stone for next turn. Raikou just needs to be turn attached too, so we could still be in a decent spot to take the first 2 prize KO, as they need to find their Prime Catcher just naturally through cycling. They, not unlike this deck where we can tutor it with a few options, they have to just draw into it, or they need to hit heads on a catcher. Looks like they have to Sada just as the benched single prize Moon. So they're not having it all their way. Yeah, really poor actually from them. Just attaching to the Moon. There's still a 2 prize on the board for us to take out. So that might be the play. We pick up the Prime Catcher naturally as well. So now we can get Generator. And that fortunately does hit 2, which we kind of needed after the early whiff. And it actually means I can go into a Miraidon with Bravery Charm now. And this is really awkward for the Roaring Moon player because they'll probably have to use Frenzied Gouging. And that sets me up for just a turn attachment Raikou. Or if they poison their Roaring Moon and Gouging, they go down to 20. And then I can use Squawkabilly to motivate KO. And that would be our ideal situation. So if they have to use Petulant to get a Moon into the active and they have to gouge through our active, that would be absolutely awesome for us to get that free reload with Squawkabilly. Honestly, Motivate is proving itself to just be the nuts in this deck, to be fair. There's a Catch of Tails, because they probably want to get around this Bravery Charm when they can. But either way, they're playing catch-up, right? They need to take 2 here. Oh, they have a Judge as well. That's kind of nice for them. We see a Night Stretcher for... was that the Fez? They're going to grab Petulant with the Nest Ball. Fez does eventually get them the 3 cards. Here's a Pokemon Capture. It does get heads. So they can get rid of our Forest Seal Stone. Are they going to retreat now, or are they still going to use Petch? Yeah, they're going to pay retreat because it means that it forces us to have the Zapdos filling our final board space here as well. They get rid of... So they've gone Judge, plus got rid of Forest Seal Stone, and removed Pokestop. That's pretty much the best thing possible that they could do here, to be fair, as a response. We do pick up Boss. We do have a decent amount of Ball Search cards. I think with the Boss, I'm happy to just put Fez into play rather than the Zapdos now. I'm going to free up the board space with Bundle here, just pre-Boss. And we're also just going to put... Looks like it's between Mew and Ursaluna. If we have Ursaluna, it just means we have that next backup attacker lined up. And we can just take out the Fez here and deny their draw a little bit more. Because again, we're sat on a monster of a hand. And Ursaluna, very similar to the Zapdos, really, because Blood Moon does 240, which is enough to get through a Roaring Moon later. So they're, again, in this really awkward position where they can't really gouging through the active. They probably have to deal with the Ursaluna and just hope that Zapdos is prized. And to dodge Gust. It's a lot that they need here, to be honest. This matchup isn't too complex. Oftentimes the first 2 prize KO is the defining winner. Oh, maybe if they're powering up the benched Baby Moon, can they get a Baby Moon to KO a Squawkabilly, possibly? Let's have a look. They did just get rid of a Sada, so maybe they're trying to discard enough ancient cards to Vengeance Fletch the Squawk. That would force me to have Gust. There's Vessel being played as well. They have very few cards left in the deck. Prime Catcher onto Blood Moon. Okay, so they're hoping we just can't retreat the Blood Moon. And yeah, they were 10 off a Squawkabilly KO by the looks of things. If they had gone for Vengeance Fletch and KO Squawk, that would have at least forced the Gusting from us, which we currently don't have in hand. But our board space would have been opened up for more draw, right? We would have been able to, like, Mew plus Fez and dig for Gust. As it happens, we have Arven for switch cards. So we can just take one more single prize here. I'm going to get quick conceal cards in. Why not? Also going to generate. And with Boss in the hand, I'm happy to use the Pokestop here and just thin stuff. And we are just going to take the single prize to put them in an even more awkward position. I don't know how they get around this now. Again, they have to like use Big Moon to KO Blood Moon just with Calamity Storm, and then hope to dodge both Boss and Zapdos. Catcher does get Tails. Let's see what they can do. Pokestop gets rid of Boss. That could be awkward. That may have been the last piece they were like looking for if they had like Pokegear in the bottom of the deck as well. Yeah, just to concede after the Catcher Tails and the Boss whiff. Let's get into game number 2 then. This time, Miraidon is probably going to be forced first. Or were they first? Were they first in the first instance? Yeah, they were. But it still worked out for us, just about. We're going to immediately tandem unit out some more Lightning Boys. We do have access to Zapdos again, which is just a big card in the deck. Looks like we're thinking about nest balling out Iron Hands here. Is that because I have the double turbo in hand? Maybe I'm thinking the best way to use this double turbo. Early attachment on Blood Moon may not be bad, but the double turbo taking us down to 220 causes headache, forces us to have more Gust. And we actually prize double double Squawk in this instance, which is crazy. You play 2 not to prize it, and then you still prize it. I think looking back, probably just attaching double turbo onto Miraidon on the bench was probably my best play here. Because I think the Iron Hands is a bit sus, to be honest. I can carve out a 2 prize KO on Radiant Greninja from them, possibly. But I do think it still eats up a lot of energy cards. So I think that may have been, like, overall, just on the grand scheme of things, a bit of a wasted attachment. Let's see how it plays out, though. Because there is a Squawk and a Radiant Greninja. And essentially what this means is, if Iron Hands can take 2 on a Greninja, or 3 on a Squawk, and then 1 on a Greninja later with something else, we still kind of get around the fact that they're going to try and shove a single prizer at us, right? That's kind of the big deal here. They've been able to do a lot. They've been able to Sada patch attached to the bench Moon. Do they have Petulant? Well, with the Pokestop now they have Ball Search for it. Actually, they just had it naturally in hand. They're going to be thinning a Squawk by the looks of things with their Ultra Ball. And we are taking the first 2 prize KO, or the Moon is. So the other thing I could have done is just attach Double Turbo and promote Greninja, and again force the Gust from them. So, yeah, overall, looking back, that Double Turbo energy doesn't look great, to be honest. Doesn't look great. We are going to unit out a Zapdos quickly. Don't need it for right now, because obviously the poison, but we're just thinning here for Generator. And it does hit the double. And we might be thinking, because there's Prime Catcher, could Iron Hands take 3 maybe, or take 2 on the Greninja? Those are both possibilities. With the 230 hit points of Iron Hands, it could be relevant, but we're doing a similar thing here with Bravery Charm from the Arven. That we're saying, if you want to deal with this Miraidon, you have to gouge it. And that should give me an easier line to take a response KO. Maybe I can take a response with Zapdos, for example. That would be huge. Let's see, though. I don't think they're too worried about gouging, honestly. If they just gouge and start soldering to another big Moon EX, they should have an easy map to 2-2-2-ing us. Yep, there's the Fez into the Sada, into the patch. They're doing exactly the thing we don't want them to do, which is building 2 Moons so that they have the license to gouge here. Looks like they're thinning once again, just dead cards. The deck does do a good job of getting right to the bottom of the deck. And it is going to be that gouging. So we have that Squawk in hand. It would be perfect, but for the fact that they're on 2 prize cards remaining. So we have to take prizes with Zapdos here. And we have to get into the active without using this Prime Catcher as well. Or we could Prime Catch the Squawk, I suppose. That's also open. We're going to generate. We do hit 2 lightning, so there's a chance we can get Zapdos into the mix here. We're going to quickly Pokestop. That is another generator. Oh, nice. We hit another lightning energy. So now we can Star Alchemy for the switch carts. Or, well, there is Rescue Board, so I could just Arven here instead and hold Prime Catcher Research for the end game. Yeah, this seems like the best move. Sets me up the best for next turn as well. Generator does get the double hit. So we're setting up Raikou win as long as they can't get around this Zapdos. I think they still have Prime Catcher available, and they might still have Boss available, so this might all be folly, but it's what we have to do. Yeah, they do have the Prime Catcher, and should have an easy way to those 2 prizes. So maybe I played that opening a little bit awkwardly, but I guess I didn't have access to Squawk, so I couldn't dig as far as I would have liked, but maybe just retreat into Greninja rather than the Double Turbo on the hands was the best line here in that second game. But at least in Game 3, the coin flip would have been huge, obviously, if these 2 actually faced off in the World Championships finals. Dictating who was forced to go first and second by both these players is absolutely huge, and now Miraidon has the chance in this Game 3 to actually get the first attack in. But they are already getting to work on some single prizes coming into play. And now they have 2 single prizes, so if they find Petrarunts, they can force a 1-prize Pokemon active. Oh wow, look at this. Turn 1. This is the ideal board state, I think. They get the Moon Shove, and they're playing around Bundle with that Radiant Greninja in the back. So they've done everything possible to dodge a 2-prize KO here. We can Bundle to threaten Iron Hands, I suppose. We're debating the Zapdos here. Maybe I could just get the hands out, and then I do use the Bundle pre-Squawk, because we're getting rid of 2 Boss, which is really awkward from this Squawk and Seize. We don't have an easy means towards Iron Hands. We have 1 more draw of Fleet-Footed. We could try and get a Greninja draw in, maybe. Or am I lowering my hand size for a Mew play, possibly, by the looks of things, the way I'm playing this? Yeah, going to fail. We can switch cut into Mew and decide after 1 or 2 draws. Looks like double turbo. It looks like, again, I'm thinking about using Motivate. The only good news is the opponent has a 2-card hand. They've done everything to build their board. And we're just hoping that from this low hand size, they can't bounce back with Sada and prizes. Once again, Squawk being the MVP. See the Greninja draw from them. They're going to push Baby Moon again. See a catcher. Ooh, it gets Tails. And they do just pass. So once again, we get to squeeze in a Motivate, which is crazy, actually. Ooh, the restart gives us Arven as well. So that opens up Prime. So we can take the first 2 prize KO. This is crazy, actually. I'm also going to do the cute thing of retreating double turbo, because again, I outlined that Squawk can finish off moons if they're poisoned and if they have to gouge, and we're trying to force the gouge with the Bravery Charm here. Trying to force that gouge is one of the only weapons we have to make taking prizes easier for us. So if they use Subjugating Chains plus gouge the active, we could Motivate Respond on the moon and set up another Pokemon in the back. So once again, the Miraidon's gone 2 prizes up, and I think we know how this story goes typically. What can the Moon player do to make life more difficult? Well, they can bring up the Mew and Judge. That's something. Let's see a Night Stretcher for Fez to draw more cards. That does fill up their bench, though, so that helps our Raikou. Maybe that was a questionable Fez use there, actually. Because that gives me an easy Rondo response with a Zapdos coming out. Kind of nullifying the tankiness of this Moon. Zapdos obviously does come into play here. Then we can do a big research. We can... I think has both Judge been played? I know one of them has, but we can just start thinning the deck now of these cards before getting a quick fleet-footed draw in. And we can hold on to Fish for next turn and go down to 2 prizes. So again, we're in really good shape. I think they've played both Judge. They've at least played one. They have to, again, they find themselves in this really weird spot of, if they're taking prizes, it has to be Baby Moon. And Baby Moon has to take out Squawk, I think. That's the only way they can win here. And they have to dodge Boss. We do see the Sadas and Patches raining down. Their attackers are online, but Sada means no hand disruption, and I think it means that we just have to sit here and wait, let them do what they want to do, and we can just get over the line with a Photon Blaster. Looks like they are ramping their discard pile with ancient cards here. Yep, lots of ancient cards hitting the bin. Will they be able to do what they couldn't do in the earlier game, where they were 10 damage off? Will they be able to hit what they need? There's another Sada coming to the hand. Yeah, it looks like Vesseling away another Moon, so that might be enough. I'm not even looking at the discard pile because I think I'm just holding on to game. They do get catcher heads, so they can do basically the only play possible, which lets them win next turn, which is a Vengeance Fletching for 170 with a single prizer. Obviously, my hands is nowhere near prepped, so it would force the Gust here. But we do indeed have the Gust. So there we go. Miraidon could have been our world champion in 2024 if things had gone a little bit differently. I really did enjoy playing these games. I was playing against myself, of course, so I obviously played way worse than probably all 3 of those players. But hopefully this was a fun little indication of what could have been a different timeline. So let me know your thoughts down below. Hope you enjoyed. And I'll see you tomorrow for another one. Cheers.